Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to talk to you, bam! Haruki Murakami's Sputnik Sweetheart, and this is my fourth Murakami's book, and I was really scared to read it because most of the reviews that I read or I watched on YouTube were very negative, and I didn't want to be disappointed with Murakami, but I decided, I don't know, I'm going to read it. This is actually our book, the book that we picked for our book club, and we are going to discuss it next Sunday, I believe. So yeah, I read this in December. I read this one first and then I read Of Mice and Men. Again, I wanted a short book, and I believe this is one of Murakami's shortest novels because I was in the middle of my exams and I wanted something easy to get through, and this one was really, great. Now, I don't understand the reviews, but I'll get to that later. Right now, I just want to tell you a little bit about the story and the characters. So, Kei is the narrator. He's friends with a girl named Sumire, and he's telling us her story. He's telling us Sumire's story. Kei and Sumire met at university. This is after university because Kei is already working as a primary school teacher in Tokyo, but Sumire dropped out of college because she wants to be a writer. She wants to be an extraordinary writer, and she believed school wasn't teaching her anything at all. So she didn't want to waste any more time and decided to drop out and pursue her dream as a writer, pursue her dream of being a writer. And I find that super interesting and super cool, and yeah, you're following a dream, go for it. Another thing that I liked about her, and it really made, it created a sort of connection between the two of us, was the fact that she gets obsessed over authors, books, characters, and I get obsessed with everything, not just those in particular, but I get obsessed over so many things, and I try to learn everything I can about that, and then I move on. And I thought I was the only one. But finally, a fictional character showed up to tell me that I'm not alone. Anyway, the idea of her dropping out of college to pursue her dream seems very, romantic, and sometimes it works. But I was a bit upset with what happened next, or, the story behind it. If I ever did that, I would think about finding a way to support myself while I'm trying to make it as a writer or as a doctor or as a musician or an artist or anything like that. I would, find a way to support myself, because I can't very well expect my parents, and in this case I only live with my mom, but I couldn't very well expect them to, support me until I make it, because I don't think that's fair. And Sumire, on the other hand, I think I don't know if she's 21 or 22, she's over 18. And she doesn't really need to do that because her family is wealthy. Her parents, her mom died when she was really young. Her father remarried, and her father and stepmother reached an agreement of supporting her, giving her an allowance until she turns 28 or 29, I'm not sure. And, after that, she's cut off. So she has all those years, I don't know how many because I'm not sure of the ages, but she has all those years to work on being a writer and, try to create this amazing masterpiece of a novel. That wouldn't be my reality, and that annoyed me because I started working when I was 18. In Portugal, we don't have that culture of having odd jobs like babysitting and stuff. We don't really do that. My sister started working when she was 16, but when I was 16, she's older than me, it was already impossible to do that. I actually worked for a couple of weeks when I was 17, but it was just, a couple of weeks, wasn't anything serious. And then I started working, hardcore when I turned 18, and I always studied and work at the same time. I would study during the week, and on the weekends I would just work. And all the money that I got, I paid for my books at university. I paid for, every time I had to have lunch at university. I paid for my bus and metro card and stuff like that, and I paid for my education, clothes. So, you know, I was still living with my parents. Obviously I wasn't paying rent, but they didn't have to worry about me buying stuff that I needed, because I was working to do that. I was working in order to, you know, help them a little bit. And I always did that. My sister also worked when she was studying. So, and I want to believe that that's a normal thing for us to do, but most of my colleagues at university, they didn't have that. So I met like 1 or 2 people who work at the weekends, and I still like her a lot. At the same time, there are some things that annoy me, but those things actually contribute a lot for the development of her character, and that's important. So I believe that they have to be there, even though they annoy me a lot, and it was a negative point in the book for me. Anyway, Sumire is trying to write. She writes a lot, and she calls Kay in the middle of the night with questions and, you know, just ideas and concepts, and he's sleeping at 3 a.m. and she calls him. So it is upsetting, I believe, but she doesn't really keep anything she writes. She destroys everything because she thinks they're no good. And I believe self-doubt is a very important thing to have when you're creating something, but I also think that she exaggerated a little bit. Anyway, Sumire meets Mio. She's an older woman at a wedding, and Mio finds Sumire super interesting and offers her a job at a wine company, I think, that Mio runs, or as a sort of personal assistant, because I think that Mio understands that, okay, you want to be a writer, but there's no reason for you to just develop other skills that you may have, and, you know, I think you have potential, so I'm going to help you. She was really nice. Sumire accepts, also, not just because she thinks it's a good idea, but because she just falls in love with Mio just like that, instantly. And Sumire doesn't have a history of relationships. She says she never felt love. She never felt like she was in love with anyone. Kay is just, man, I feel sorry for the guy because he's so in love with her and she just doesn't want anything to do with him other than being friends. And he accepts that, but he suffers a lot and he just breaks my heart. But when she meets Mio, she just... she loves her like that. So it's an amazing thing. It's like that, you know, love at first sight. Mio, on the other hand, she has no idea Sumire is in love with her. So again, it's one of those situations where you're in love with someone, you're not sure if they like you like that or not, so you don't know what to do, and it is overwhelming and stressful, but Sumire holds her ground and she works hard and she actually learns a lot. She learns Italian, she deals with several, you know, office related issues, she travels with She's very helpful. So, of course, this is going to change her personality a little bit and the way she has conducted her life so far, because she starts to feel a bit more grown up. So, you know, I have to change the way that I dress, I have to change my behavior because she's very quirky, she's very odd, and people are not everyone likes her and not everyone wants to be friends with her because she can be a bit rough on the edges. And she starts to change that gradually. Kay notices and he thinks it's funny, he thinks it's okay, but still, he still likes Sumire the way she was before. There's one part, so this is until, I don't know, half of the novel is this type of story, so you're just learning more and more about Sumire and later on her relationship with Mio as, you know, a professional relationship. And then they decide to go on a business trip. They go to Italy and I think they go to France, and they end up going to Greece as well because why not? In Greece, everything changes and Kay actually has to go there and help Mio because Sumire is in distress. And this is when I'm going to stop and I won't tell you anything else. because I'm really trying and I'm working on not spoiling so much, because I rewatched some of my videos and I kind of spoil a lot of, and I give a lot of details on the stories. I'm trying not to do that so much, focusing more on the book as a whole. Half the book is very modern, real. This is just real life, and that's weird because this is Murakami, and it takes a long time for that magic realism characteristic to show up. It was refreshing, it was different, but still, when it kicks in, man, you know you're reading Murakami, so there's no doubt about that. His writing is as spectacular as it's always spectacular. I think people don't like this book for two reasons. One, yeah, if you like Murakami and you like the magic thing, you like the fantasy factor, it takes a long time to reach that point. So yeah, you might feel like you're just reading a normal, mundane novel and be a bit upset about it. On the other hand, I think people don't like this book also because you get to the end and you don't know what happens to Miri. So it leaves you with questions. Now, I'm no expert in Murakami. Like I said, I only read 4 novels so far. I have 2 more to read that I bought after Christmas. One is Kafka by the Shore and the other is A Wild Sheep Chase. And yeah, I still have to read that. So 4 books doesn't make me an expert, but I'm pretty sure every Murakami book leaves you with questions. So I thought you knew. And the reason that's annoying, it shouldn't be a negative thing. Leaving you with questions shouldn't be a negative thing, and it's not a negative thing. Sorry. I think Murakami is one of those authors, and I haven't come across another one like that. But I think he's one of those authors that, he does most of the work because he writes the story. He came up with the story, the characters, and he gives them a direction. You reach the end, and that's when you have to do some work. You get annoyed about having questions because you feel like you're part of the story. You get so involved with the story and the characters that when you reach the end, you actually want to know what happened. It's not just, a comfort thing or a closure thing. You want to know what happened because you were there. You're reading this book. It's like you're sitting in the cafe and Kate shows up and says, well, I have a story to tell you. Did I tell you about my friend Samiria? It's like, who? Samiria? That sounds interesting. And he tells you this. That's why you get annoyed. But it's not negative. It means that you get to explore several outcomes of the story. And yes, obviously, you will never know what really happened unless you're lucky enough and fortunate enough to meet Murakami one day and ask him, look, after reading this book, I thought that maybe this is the reason for this thing to happen. What do you think? What were you thinking when you wrote this? If you ever get that chance, take it, because I know I would. But this is not a bad thing. Having questions is not a bad thing. And Murakami is actually the only author so far that changed my mind about open endings. I was not a fan of open endings. I was never a fan of that. I thought that it was just lazy and it was just upsetting and it would just leave me really frustrated. He's the first author to just give me a ton of open endings, because it's not just the main character's story that doesn't finish, in a sense that you don't know what happened. There are so many other loose ends here that it's just, what happened? And I really believe that's something that not everyone can do, and maybe that's why Murakami is just one of a kind. On the other hand, every book that I read so far, so I read Sputnik Sweetheart, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, and the Volume 1 and Volume 2 of 1Q84. I will get Volume 3 this year. They always talk a little bit about, reality versus dreams, physical world versus spiritual world. And Wind-Up Bird Chronicle is just the nucleus of everything. And it leaves you with a lot of questions. But in this book, and this Sumire actually addresses the issue. So in Why the Bird Chronicle, I felt the characters knew that something was up and they were trying to understand it, but for the sake of going back to their normal mundane lives. Whereas here, Sumire addresses the issue and wonders, what if I just leave the physical world and I stop thinking about stuff and I stop being introspective and I just go and live in my dreams? Wouldn't that be easier? She addresses the issue. She asks the questions that the other characters from the other books that I read by Murakami didn't. And I think that's one reason, and probably the main reason why this book it's so interesting, because it actually makes you think about it, not just as a sort of mystery that you want to help the characters, resolve, for them to just, oh my God, I just want him to, understand what is happening in his life so he can go back and just live his normal life. She addresses the issue from a whole different perspective. And from then on, the story, Murakami weaves this intrigue, this story that just makes you want more. And that's why when you reach the last page and you have 4 or 5 questions or more, you get upset. But that's not a negative thing. That doesn't make the book bad. I think it just adds to its mystery and it just makes Murakami who he actually is. So, again, this happened with Of Mice and Men. I mentioned that on my last video. Everyone talks trash about Of Mice and Men, and right now is my second favorite John Steinbeck's book, and everyone talks trash about Sputnik Sweetheart, and I don't know if it's my second, my first, my fourth, I'm not sure. I didn't rank them before this, but yeah, I'm not disappointed at all. They talk trash, but it is a wonderful book. I think you should read it. I think it's a good book to start with from the 4 that I've read, because I'm not saying that you should start with this one if you've never read Murakami before, because I haven't read all of them. But from the 4 books that I read, Wind Up Bird Chronicles, Sputnik Sweetheart, and the 2 volumes of 1Q84, this one is the best one to start with, because half of it is a real modern world. And they are real characters, they're really modern characters, and Kei tries to understand Sumire, and he wants to be a good friend for Sumire, but he wants to be a good friend to her, but he also wants to sleep, and she calls in the middle of the night, and he's thinking about trivial things, like, I have to go to work tomorrow and I need to go to sleep and you're upsetting me and I don't know what to tell you. Sumire, on the other hand, she doesn't know many things, like popular things. I think that at some point Kei says something about Sumire not knowing that bras come in different sizes. Not sure, but there are many sort of popular questions and conventional social conventions that she doesn't know, and she's really clueless about it. But either way, she's a very intellectual human being that asks very important questions, so she doesn't waste time with trivial stuff. So it is a very fun book because of that. And then all of a sudden, you're gonna have the fantasy factor, you're gonna have the magic realism factor, and it's gonna change the entire perspective of the book, it's gonna change the plot, but it just makes you want more. And honestly, can you be honest and tell me, when Kei is in Greece and he's walking around, after Mio left, she went to the city or something like that, to deal with some issues, and he's walking around alone, didn't you feel like you were right there next to him? I mean, the writing is just so alive here. It's just you jump and you are in Greece all of a sudden, and you really think that you are there, you are with him, and you're trying to figure stuff out. It's such an intriguing book, and I really think Murakami has this power and gift of just connecting with you at a whole new level. He transcends like normal modern writers. I think he's amazing. Anyway, my opinion, should you read Sputnik Sweetheart? Yes. Again, I'm not criticizing those who didn't like it. Like, I didn't like, let me see, a book that many people like. I didn't like The Red Queen, and that was a very famous book like 2 years ago. And many people like Saramago, and I don't like Saramago. So I'm not criticizing your choice or your taste. I'm just saying, try to look at it from a different perspective, because if the reason that you have to hate this book is because it leaves you with questions, try to look at it from a different perspective, and I think you will understand that it is a good thing. So don't look at it as being a bad thing, but it is a very, very good thing. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I have some free time on my hands. Whoa, 2 videos in the same week. What's happening? I hope you enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.